A lawsuit seeking to delay the certification of election results in Michigan's largest county is being appealed to the state's Supreme Court. It was filed by Republicans in Wayne County. Poll watchers there want an independent audit completed before the count is made official. Two lower courts have already rejected the case, with one judge calling its claims of widespread voter fraud, quote, incorrect and not credible. Meanwhile, a separate lawsuit filed by the Trump campaign in Michigan could soon be dismissed. A federal judge is threatening to do just that if the campaign does not serve a complaint and summons seeking to halt canvassing in Wayne County by today. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, who is a Democrat, joins me now. Thank you so much for being with us. So, President Trump has attacked the voting machine supplier Dominion. He claims its machines deleted millions of votes for him nationwide. Dominion denies that. But Dominion software is used in your state, and two counties did report mistakes, though officials say they were not caused by the technology and that vote counts were not affected. I wonder if you could tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, it was, evaluated. By the way, those errors were caught very, very quickly. The system worked as it was designed to. Obviously, we have multiple layers of review. And interesting enough, those were Republican clerks who had made human errors that they conceded. And there were votes that accidentally went to Biden that should have gone to Trump. But these were Republicans that supported Trump. And they conceded that they had made errors. They hadn't properly updated the software. And within, I think, a day, those errors had been reviewed and corrected. So it's not a problem. And like many of the claims we hear the Trump campaign make, not credible. This has been evaluated now by judges that were appointed both by Democrats and Republicans, liberal judges, very, very conservative judges, and they've all come to the same conclusion, is that there is no merit to these claims. We have found that Joe Biden has won this state likely by in the neighborhood of 150,000 votes, not even close. And while, of course, they're welcome to a recount if they'd like it, the certification process is moving forward, and ultimately our 16 electoral votes will be awarded to Joe Biden because he, by far, won the most votes in our state.
So let me just dig a little deeper on this legal process. The Trump campaign has not produced significant evidence proving widespread fraud. So is it clear why courts have agreed to take these cases in the first place?
Well, I mean, when you say they've taken these cases, of course, they have to have an initial hearing. They cannot refuse to hear them all together. So our Court of Claims, which was the first stop at the state system, and also the Wayne County Circuit Court heard these. They were appealed to the Court of Appeals that, have not yet accepted their applications. And now they're moving on to the Michigan Supreme Court. So that's how the system works. But there has been no court yet that has indicated that these claims are meritorious or that there's any validity to them, or that in any event, it would change who the winner of our, electoral votes are in the state of Michigan.
I want to ask you about something related. We know that Georgia is currently recounting votes by hand. President Trump has called the recount a scam. In an interview with CBS this morning, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger in Georgia accused South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham of suggesting that absentee ballots from counties with high rates of non-matching signatures should be thrown out. Now, Secretary Raffensperger also said that he and his wife are receiving death threats over the outcome. I wonder what your reaction is to that, and are officials in Michigan experiencing similar pressure?
Well, I'm absolutely horrified to hear that. That's not how a working democracy ought to work. People who are doing their jobs and doing them well ought to be commended and not threatened simply because people don't like who the voters happen to have selected for that election. And I will tell you, here in the state of Michigan, Donald Trump won by just over 10,000 votes in 2016. I mean, that was such a thin margin of victory for him. But the Democrats in our state, we didn't threaten poll workers. We didn't threaten city or county clerks or the Secretary of State. We conceded that Donald Trump was the winner of the election, and we decided to try to do better in 2018 and 2020 and just organize and improve our ground game and our candidates and so forth. So this is really unprecedented, and it's incredibly disturbing. And for our Secretary of State, I hope that she's staying safe. I know that she does everything according to the letter of the law and by the book, and she is widely respected. I don't imagine anybody from the Trump campaign is trying to pressure her. But I will say this is not how things have ever gone, at least since I've been alive, and I've lived in this state my entire life, never seen anything like this before. I hope to never see anything like this again, and that we could just go ahead, certify the results of the elections, and move past this terrible time period.
I want to turn to the Senate race there. CBS News has projected that Michigan's incumbent Senator Gary Peters has won re-election, beating his Republican challenger, John James, by more than 85,000 votes. Now, James is not conceding and says he has, quote, deep concerns that millions of Michiganders may have been disenfranchised. His campaign and the Republican National Committee have started a legal defense fund to help cover the costs of litigation. Attorney General Nessel, what do you make of his allegations?
I think they are wholly lacking in any kind of substance. And I will say the ironic thing is that the winner of that race, Gary Peters, he was in a hotly contested race in the early 2000s when he ran for Attorney General here in Michigan. And I recall that even when the projections were that he was, losing by less than 5,000 votes, he conceded because he knew that it was so difficult, if not impossible, to overcome a 5,000 vote deficit. And while a recount might discover errors here and there for a handful of votes, it's certainly not going to change in the tens of thousands that way. And honestly, I'm just appalled. I think that we cannot expect our democratic system of elections to work if we don't have faith in it. And all of these claims without any kind of real backing at all. And again, having every single court that has evaluated these claims say that they completely lacked any credibility of any kind, it tells you a little bit about how meritorious those claims are. And it's very disturbing to me that you have people who are running for positions like the presidency, like the United States Senate, that simply refuse to abide by our system and who disparage it in the way they have.
Do you think that a recount, though, in Michigan might restore some confidence in the process?
Look, if they want to pay for a recount, absolutely, they can go ahead and do that. But that happens after the vote is certified. And, the judge in the Wayne County Circuit Court case made it very clear that to hold off on certification just because there are these claims that, again, have not been found to be substantiated in any court would mean that Michigan could not be included on December 14th. When the votes are certified and the Electoral College is voted on, Michigan would not be participating. And that has been called an unprecedented act of judicial activism by some of the most conservative judges in the state. So it would really be saying, in order to do this recount before certification, especially for the presidency, it would mean that we couldn't even participate in that process. And everyone, all 5.5 million voters in the state of Michigan, would be disenfranchised and wouldn't be included in that process. And that's why we don't do that. Now, if there had been substance to these claims, if we had courts that investigated this and found there to be clear error in the tens of thousands of votes, that might be one thing. But there has been absolutely no substance of any kind to this. Honestly, at this point, I don't know what to call it except for people who are unable to come to grips with the fact that they lost these elections. And I don't understand it. We've never seen this before.
All right, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.